Hey there, you. Ever feel like cities are on the verge of something big? Something straight out of a sci-fi novel? Today's deep dive is right up your alley. We're talking synaptic cities. Cities that don't just collect data, but actually learn and adapt in real time.
And we're not talking about some distant future either. This research paper, the synaptic city phenomenon, lays out a blueprint using tech that's already here. Foundation models, federated learning, and blockchain.
Okay, I'm catching a serious future of cities vibe here. But what does it actually mean for, the people living in them?
Imagine a city that anticipates your needs. Traffic flows smoothly because the city anticipates congestion. Buildings become energy efficient by automatically adjusting to usage patterns. Businesses have exactly what you're looking for, precisely when you need it. All thanks to the power of data used in a whole new way.
That's a huge leap from the smart city initiatives we hear about now. What makes this synaptic city different?
It's about how that data is USED. Think of those personalized recommendations you get online. Imagine that level of intelligent insight applied to every aspect of city life, but with a twist.
Okay, I'm hooked on this twist. Still it.
The current smart city model often relies on centralized data storage, which can be a bit of a privacy nightmare. Synaptic cities, on the other hand, leverage federated learning. Instead of your data being sent to some massive central hub, the learning happens locally on your device, maybe your phone or a server in your building. Only the insights, not your personal data, are shared.
So the city gets smarter, but my data stays put. That's reassuring.
Exactly. And to add a layer of trust and transparency, blockchain comes into play. Imagine a digital ledger that records every decision, every action taken by the city systems. Everything is out in the open, completely verifiable.
No more black boxes when it comes to city management. I like the sound of that. But let's talk specifics. How do these foundation models actually work? I'm picturing something like a giant brain soaking up all the city's data.
You're not far off. A foundation model is a type of AI trained on a massive data set, text, images, you name it. It's like giving the city a crash course in, well, everything. This allows the AI to understand complex patterns and make predictions with remarkable accuracy.
So instead of just reacting to problems, a synaptic city could anticipate and prevent them. That's a game changer. What kind of real-world impact are we talking about here?
Let's take a local business. Say a small bakery. In a synaptic city, they could get incredibly accurate predictions about customer demand. No more guessing how many croissants to bake. They'd know exactly what their customers want before they even walk in the door.
That's huge for a small business owner. What else could a synaptic city do?
Think about inventory management. Instead of stock shortages or wasted products, everything is perfectly in sync with real-time demand. Or imagine dynamic pricing, where businesses automatically adjust costs based on factors like time of day, or even the weather, leading to a more responsive and efficient marketplace.
Okay, I'm getting a much clearer picture of how this could benefit everyone, from small business owners to everyday people just trying to navigate city life.
And it's not just about efficiency. This interconnectedness has the potential to create a more resilient and responsive urban environment, one that can adapt to challenges in real time.
This all sounds incredibly promising. But I imagine there are some potential downsides to consider as well, right?
You're right. Implementing a system this complex is bound to come with challenges. One of the biggest hurdles is the issue of data silos.
Data silos, explain.
Think of it like this. Different departments within a city, like transportation, energy, and public safety, often hold on to their data, not really sharing. It's like having all the pieces of a puzzle scattered around, unable to see the full picture.
And for a synaptic city to truly work, all those pieces need to fit together.
Exactly. To unlock the full potential, we need those separate data sets talking to each other, painting a complete picture of the city's needs and rhythms.
So how do we overcome this data silo issue? Is it even possible to get all these different players to cooperate and share their data?
It's a significant challenge. The research paper proposes creating standardized data sharing agreements and protocols. It's about establishing a common language that all these different systems can understand.
No more data lost in translation.
Precisely. But technology alone isn't enough. Building trust is crucial. Citizens need to be informed about how their data is being used and have a say in how it's managed. That transparency is essential for the success of any synaptic city initiative.
Transparency and a seat at the table, that's how you build trust. And get people on board with such a radical shift in how cities operate. This concept of a synaptic city is clearly more than just technological innovation. It's about rethinking our entire relationship with the urban environment.
Absolutely. And it raises some critical questions. For example, how do we ensure these powerful technologies are used ethically and responsibly? How do we prevent unintended consequences or biases from creeping into the system?
Those are big questions, and they deserve a deep dive of their own. But for now, we'll leave you with this thought. Imagine a city that learns and adapts, anticipating and responding to your needs in ways you never thought possible. That's the promise of a synaptic city. It's an intriguing thought, isn't it? To think that the very structure of a city could become as responsive as our own nervous systems. But as you hinted at, the ethical dimension is absolutely crucial to explore.
It's a paradigm shift, for
Yeah.
sure. But this concept of a synaptic city, it's not just about efficiency or technological prowess. It's about using those tools to create a more humane and fulfilling urban experience.
Right, because handing over the reins to algorithms without careful consideration could lead to a whole new set of problems. What are some specific concerns we should be thinking about?
One that immediately springs to mind is the potential for bias, even if unintentional. If the data used to train these city managing AIs is skewed, let's say historically certain neighborhoods received less funding for infrastructure, the AI might perpetuate those inequalities, even if its programming is meant to be fair.
So it's not enough to just have massive data sets. The quality and representativeness of that data are crucial. How do we ensure that it doesn't get overlooked in the rush toward building the smartest city possible?
This research paper stresses the need for diverse teams of developers, policymakers, and ethicists working together from the get-go. Think of it like checks and balances. You need people from different backgrounds, different perspectives, to scrutinize the data, the algorithms, to spot potential blind spots before they become real-world harms.
That makes a lot of sense. You're building a city for everyone, so the people building it need to represent that diversity of experiences. But even with the best intentions, technology isn't evenly distributed. We've got this term, the digital divide. How does that factor into a future of synaptic cities?
It's a critical concern if access to information, to opportunity, becomes increasingly reliant on being plugged into these citywide networks. We risk further marginalizing those without reliable internet, the right devices, or digital literacy skills.
So it's almost like a self-reinforcing cycle. Those who are already disadvantaged might fall further behind in a city that's rapidly becoming more digital. That's a pretty bleak outlook.
It doesn't have to be. The paper argues that addressing the digital divide needs to be baked into the very fabric of a synaptic city. Free public Wi-Fi, digital skills training, even ensuring city services are accessible offline. These can't be afterthoughts. They need to be fundamental design principles.
So it's about weaving equity into the very infrastructure of the city, both digital and physical. I'm sensing a theme here. It's not just about the technology itself, but how we choose to use it, the values we embed in it.
Precisely. And that brings us to another potential pitfall: the impact on jobs. If a city becomes this efficient, this automated, what happens to the people whose livelihoods depend on tasks now done by algorithms?
It's the classic fear of robots taking over. But on a citywide scale, is that a valid concern or is it overblown?
It's certainly something to be addressed proactively, not brushed aside. This research isn't about replacing people, but rather, how do we design systems where human skills are enhanced, not made obsolete?
So if a synaptic city is going to create new jobs, what might those look like?
Think about roles that require creativity, critical thinking, empathy, skills that are uniquely human. We might see a surge in demand for data analysts who can interpret the city's insights, for urban planners who can translate those insights into people-centric design, for ethicists who ensure the technology is used responsibly.
It's almost like a societal shift towards roles that require more complex problem solving, more human connection. As the more rote tasks become automated,
Exactly. But this requires significant investment in education and retraining programs, ensuring everyone has the opportunity to thrive in this new landscape, not just a select few.
this is all a lot to process. We've gone from self-adjusting traffic lights to the very future of work in the span of a few minutes.
And we're just scratching the surface. But that's the thing about this synaptic city concept. It's not just about technology. It's about reimagining the social contract of urban living.
And speaking of reimagining, this paper isn't all doom and gloom about potential downsides. It actually highlights some real-world examples of these technologies already making a positive impact.
Absolutely. We're seeing glimpses of the future in cities around the world. Take traffic management, for example. Some cities are already using AI-powered cameras and sensors to monitor traffic flow in real time, dynamically adjusting traffic signals to reduce congestion.
So, less time stuck in traffic, more time for, well, life. That's a win in my book. What other examples are there?
In some places, public transportation is getting a smart upgrade. We're talking about AI optimizing bus and train routes based on real-time demand, even personalizing them for individual user preferences.
Now, that's what I call a personalized commute. It's like having a city that knows where you need to be before you do. But what about the sustainability aspect? Can a synaptic city actually help us reduce our environmental impact?
Absolutely. The paper talks about buildings that use smart grids and AI to monitor energy consumption patterns by automatically adjusting lighting, heating, and cooling systems. These buildings become significantly more energy efficient.
So the buildings themselves are learning how to conserve energy, like having a built-in sustainability manager. That's impressive. Are there any other examples of how a synaptic city could be better for the environment?
Some buildings are even designed to feed excess energy back into the grid, further reducing their environmental footprint. Imagine a city where buildings aren't just energy consumers, but active contributors to a more sustainable future.
Okay, now we're talking, but these are just isolated examples. How do we connect these individual pieces into a cohesive whole, a true synaptic city?
That's the million-dollar question, and it requires a fundamental shift in how we approach urban planning. We need to move away from siloed thinking and embrace a more integrated, holistic approach.
So it's about breaking down those barriers between different sectors, transportation, energy, infrastructure, and creating a more interconnected urban ecosystem.
Precisely. And that requires collaboration, not just between government agencies and technology companies, but also with citizens. A truly successful synaptic city needs to be co-created, with input and participation from the people who live and work there.
So it's not just about making cities smarter from a technological standpoint, but about creating a smarter, more inclusive, and more responsive urban experience for everyone. It's fascinating to think that the cities of the future aren't just being built, they're being co-created by the people who live in them. That level of citizen engagement is both empowering and a little daunting.
It's a paradigm shift, for sure. But this concept of a synaptic city, it's not just about efficiency or technological prowess. It's about using those tools to create a more humane and fulfilling urban experience.
And that brings us back to the idea of a city that learns. It's a compelling metaphor. But how do we actually measure that learning? How do we know if a synaptic city is actually becoming smarter and, more importantly, better for its residents?
That's where we move beyond just collecting data to understanding what it's telling us. We're talking about indicators like improved traffic flow, reduced crime rates, faster emergency response times, lower energy consumption. These are quantifiable improvements that directly impact people's lives.
So it's not just about the city getting smarter. It's about that intelligence translating into tangible benefits for the people who live there.
Exactly. But there's a qualitative aspect as well.
Yeah.
Are citizens more engaged in their communities? Do they feel heard by their local government? Are they proud of the place they call home? These are harder to measure. But just as crucial,
It's about creating a city that's not just technologically advanced, but also socially vibrant and emotionally resonant. A place where people feel connected, supported, and inspired.
precisely. And that requires a shift in mindset, not just from city planners and policymakers, but from all of us. We need to start thinking about cities as dynamic, evolving organisms, not static concrete jungles.
So where do we go from here? We've covered a lot of ground, from the technical intricacies of foundation models to the very real ethical concerns about data privacy and bias. What's the one key takeaway you want our listener to walk away with today?
I want them to consider this. The future of our cities isn't predetermined. It's being written right now. And not just by tech companies or government agencies, but by everyday citizens.
So whether you're a tech enthusiast, a community organizer, or just someone who cares about the future of their city, your voice matters.
Absolutely. Engage in local politics. Support businesses that align with your values. Challenge assumptions. Spark conversations. These are the small acts that will shape the synaptic cities of tomorrow.
I love that. Because ultimately, the most intelligent city is the one that learns from and adapts to the needs and aspirations of its people.
And that requires all of us to be active participants in the conversation.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the future of cities. It's a future full of both challenges and incredible possibilities.
The pleasure was all mine.
And for you listening, we'll catch you next time for another deep dive into the topics that matter.